When I started about the Asking Saves Kids campaign, and I know when I started into the advocacy, I was very worried about asking somebody this question because I felt like I was asking this personal question, like, hey, how much money do you make? But it wasn't about that. It was about the safety aspect. And I do know that you are much more likely, to 43% more chance of being killed when there's a gun in your home, either by someone taking it from you and using it against you, or someone in your home using it to harm themselves.
Hello, and welcome to Women Awakening. I'm your host, Cynthia James, and I'm so honored to be with you, to come every week and introduce you to women that are inspired and inspiring. These are women that have said, this is my mission, this is my purpose, this is my destiny, and I'm going to fulfill it. And I'm not going to just make a difference for me, but I'm going to make a difference for other people. And so we have done over 250 interviews now with women all around the world, and there's never been one that didn't inspire me. So I'm sure today will be the same. It will be extraordinary. Know that we are here every week, and we're on all the platforms: Spotify, iTunes, iHeart, Spreaker. We're on Amazon. We're on video YouTube. So please subscribe and also give us reviews. We want to touch as many people as possible. CynthiaJames.net is my website. You can go there. I have a private community that's not connected to any social media platform. So you get a lot of connection with people in a safe environment. And also I have a newsletter and lots of gifts. So I want to introduce you to my guest today. Her name is Heidi Yewman. She's dedicated 26 years advocating for trauma survivors with a passion for gun violence prevention. And it was ignited in 1999 when her former basketball coach and teacher, Dave Sanders, was tragically killed alongside 12 students in the Columbine High School massacre. She's an award-winning director and producer of the documentary Behind the Bullet. Heidi has also authored the book Beyond the Bullet, Personal Stories of Gun Violence Aftermath, and contributed numerous articles highlighting the devastating impact of gun violence on victims and their families. I mean, her articles and writing have appeared in USA Today, Ms. Magazine, Seattle Times, The Oregonian, and Huffington Post. I'm so excited to see her here. Her debut memoir is called Dumb Girl, and it'll be published in August 2025. So we're excited for you to absolutely see it. Heidi, thank you so much for being here.
Oh, thank you, Cynthia. So glad to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
Well, I just want to know how you grew up, where you started. You know, people can look at successful people and can think, well, they didn't have to go through anything. It was easy. They just climbed the ladder to success and it was just, a piece of cake. But how did you grow up? Because you might not have grown up thinking you were going to be a documentary person and writing books on gun violence.
Oh boy, that's for sure. I had anticipated having a pretty small, little contained life. I'm not experiencing the life I thought that was going to be happening to me when I got out of high school. So I grew up in Denver in a family that had three brothers, and I would call it a toxic masculinity kind of family. I was really drawn towards sports and athletic endeavors because that was acceptable in my family. You mentioned the title of my book called Dumb Girl. And so the reason for that really has to do with my childhood. So I grew up thinking I was dumb. And the reason I thought that was in this family that I grew up in, it was constantly said to me, there's a mantra that went on throughout my childhood everybody said to me, Heidi, don't be a dumb girl. And it got shortened to DBADG. So Cynthia, if I saw a spider and I screamed, DBADG. If I fell down and scraped my knee and was going to cry, DBADG. So the constant message was don't be dumb and don't be a girl. So any kind of attribute that I had that was considered weak or female, I was told, and the message was very clear to not be that thing. And it continued. My dad was a violent, angry man who had problems with his anger. And in fifth grade, I remember failing a social studies class. And he found out that I got an F, and he was very upset and had a violent reaction to it. And at the end of this terrible night, he had me take all my F papers and tape them onto my bedroom wall. And when I got done taping them up, he looked at me and said, "This is so all your friends can see how stupid you are." And what that did to me emotionally was, well, first of all, I went to sleep and woke up to that wall every night for months and every morning for months. And what that does to a fifth grader or sort of 11-year-old is you start believing that about yourself. And so I didn't bring people home, and I started cheating on tests because I couldn't afford to then not pass or fail another class or another test. And so then that sort of built on itself. And so I grew up thinking I was dumb, and that messaging continued throughout my adulthood. And so the challenge was, in all the advocacy work that I've done around gun violence prevention, ironically, that is what helped me heal from that messaging. And I proved to myself that I am not dumb, I'm capable. Being smart or dumb is not defined by how you do just academically, but how you go through life. So that's been my mission, is to show myself through other people that I am very capable and not dumb.
Well, I am so glad you shared that. Thank you. And I just want to say to that little inner child in you, I am so sorry because you did not deserve that on
No,
any level. And
thank you for
anybody
that.
listening, it was my honor. Ladies, here's the thing. People do not understand the power of the word. They do not understand how language can have impact on the psyche, mental, emotional, physical well-being of people. So whatever you've experienced where people told you that you weren't smart or capable or creative, I'm blessing them, but it's not true. And so, Heidi, I want to talk about Columbine because there are some people in my life who were present there and the impact that it has on you. You know, um, just talk to me a little bit about that experience and what it ignited in you.
Yeah, so you had mentioned it on the upfront and about my teacher, Dave Sanders, or coach, who had been killed. He'd been my basketball coach. And I was living in Portland, Oregon at the time, and I flew back for his funeral. I had a 1-year-old and a 4-year-old that I left at home with my husband. And I went to his funeral and to the mass memorial. And I remember, Cynthia, just looking at these former teachers of mine with red, swollen eyes. I'd never seen them in that kind of a state, and everyone was just in shock. And so I'm at this mass funeral because he was so beloved. And I remember just sitting there, and something shifted inside of me. And I thought, this is so tragic, so terrible. And I can no longer sit on the sidelines and watch these things happen and not be involved. And so I made a vow to myself, sitting on that pew at that church, and said, I'm getting involved and I'm going to do everything I can to stop these kinds of things from happening. And so that was really the seed and the beginning of my advocacy work.
Well, yeah, there hasn't been one woman that I've interviewed that there wasn't a moment, something in the history that changed directions and had them make a vow to themselves. So I want to talk about this documentary. Did you know how to make a documentary?
No, so that's the thing. I didn't know how to do a documentary, but I was so encumbered by this messaging that I had received early on about being dumb. And I was so embarrassed about it all the time. And I was so worried about whether I was in meetings or doing advocacy work that people would discover, oh, she's an idiot, right? Oh, she's dumb. I don't want to work with her. But what I found through a series of conversations was it was actually a superpower. So I did not know how to do a film. And so I feel dumb. So I'm like, oh, I can't do this. So I better find somebody who does know how to do it. And then I will bring them alongside me. And then that's how I'll figure out how to do it. So I surround myself with people who are capable, who are experts, who know how to do things. And so, because I feel dumb, I don't have this ego about it. I don't feel when somebody is an expert at filmmaking, I automatically feel less than, but I feel like, okay, cool. I will attach myself to this person and then we'll move forward on this thing that I want to do. And it's interesting because I'd written a book, as you mentioned, behind or Beyond the Bullet. And that was a book about 19 people who'd been impacted by gun violence and lost a loved one. Many of them were involved in the Columbine massacre, a couple teachers and some parents of children who were killed at Columbine. So I told their stories. And then the film is about four people who bought a gun for self-defense, and they used the gun in a way either they intended to or that they didn't, like a kid finding the gun. So I interviewed four people who bought the gun for self-defense and then how it impacted them when a life was taken with their gun, either at their hands or a child who found it. And I was going to write another book, but I felt like this particular topic was so nuanced. It wasn't a clear victim perpetrator situation. And so I really wanted to help tell the stories in a visual manner, because people who have shot and killed somebody, it is so complex and it's not a good guy, bad guy situation. I interviewed a man who shot an intruder in his house, and he watched the guy bleed out on the front of his lawn. And it was justified. He was in his right to do so. But what happened was I interviewed him 3 years after, and he was completely paranoid. He had nightmares. He was really suffering from the consequences of this. And he created a moral injury. He had tripwires around his house. And so you don't just sort of shoot somebody because you want to be the good guy with the gun. There's a moral consequence that happens, and you suffer. It's unless you're a sociopath, killing somebody isn't a normal thing for a human to do.
Right. Yeah, I think it's true. And there's so much conversation and controversy about, gun violence and stuff, and it's accelerated over the years, I mean, it's like become a normal kind of part of the news cycle. There's this one here. The thing I guess in the interviews that you've done and in the work that you've done, have you been able to understand, and this is a really serious question because I don't really understand why as a culture we're unwilling to put some guidelines and framing on this, so it's not so easy for people who are not healthy to get these guns and to create this violence.
Well, yeah, I think that there's a sort of legislative approach that is not working really well right now.
Right.
And but I think there's these educational campaigns that I've really loved and helped. And what has happened is there's this Asking Saves Kids campaign. Asking Saves Kids campaign is an educational campaign that encourages parents to ask if there's a gun in somebody's home before letting your kids play there.
Mm.
And that was where I found my beginning of my advocacy work, because I wasn't having conversations with people where I'm pro-gun and you're anti-gun or this kind of thing. It was not going head to head. It was, hey, how do we come alongside each other? I would like my kids to play at your home, but I want to make sure they're safe. So I'm going to ask, do you have a gun in your home that the kids could get into that is loaded and available? And so both sides, no matter your feelings on gun ownership, we all want our kids to be safe, and we don't want any kids finding guns that are loaded and have an accident happen. And so I think that's where we find some common ground, is talking about gun safety rather than pro-gun or anti-gun or pro-legislation or anti-legislation. It's in these educational campaigns. And I loved being able to have a conversation with somebody about our kids being safe. And, do you have a dangerous dog in your house? What's the rating of the shows the kids are going to be watching? Those kinds of things. And then this is just another safety question. Are the kids safe from guns while they're in this home?
Well, I think that's so beautiful. I've had so many conversations with people about us as a culture being so afraid that we think we need guns for safety. And then there are other people who are like, well, I'm afraid to have one because I'm afraid of what could happen or that it could escalate something that was already occurring. And so, what do you tell people who are feeling helpless in this regard, um, about how they can contribute to gun safety?
Yeah, I think it's having these kinds of conversations. I know when I started about the Asking Saves Kids campaign, and I know when I started into the advocacy, I was very worried about asking somebody this question because I felt like I was asking this personal question, like, "Hey, how much money do you make?" Right? But it wasn't about that. It was about the safety aspect, and I do know that you are much more likely to 43% more chance of being killed when there's a gun in your home, either by someone taking it from you and using it against you, or someone in your home using it to harm themselves. And that's just reality. And so a gun in your home does make you less safe. But what I find when I'm engaging is that's not the feeling people are having. And feelings often override the statistics and the knowledge that we have. And that's the key. And so this Asking Saves Kids campaign certainly helps with that because I'm having conversations with other moms, not about judging them about gun ownership, but about keeping the kids safe. And then, oh, yeah, we should keep our guns locked up. Oh, and we should keep the ammunition stored separately. So it's not about having a gun, it's about making sure it's stored properly.
Yeah. And what's going on with children? Because so many children now, I mean, there is this, when you were talking about the feelings of the things being put on your wall and the impact, what do you think is happening with our children today? Because, mental health issues have risen in children, exponentially, where they don't feel safe to go to the place that was supposed to be the safe space always.
Yeah, I think it's hard right now. I certainly didn't grow up in the time where social media was a thing, and the pressures, and I think I just can't imagine what that is like and how that impact. When you and I were growing up in school, and there was a bully or somebody being harsh on us, we could go home and have a respite from it, and then deal with it when we got back to school the next day if it was continuing. But that's not the reality of today. And I think that's really challenging for folks, for kids, and it's challenging for parents who are trying to support their kids and give them positive messaging, but then that's getting overridden by the bullying that's happening online and that kind of thing. And so that's not my expertise, certainly, but I've raised two children, and my message is always about let's try and understand the other side. I, when I was doing a lot of protests around my gun violence advocacy work, I was having these guys who were showing up with guns on their hips and trying to intimidate me. And I thought, what's this about? And so I wrote an article for Ms. Magazine, a 4-part series called My Month with a Gun, where I got a permit to carry a concealed weapon and I bought a gun and I carried it with me for a month. And I took it in my purse or it was on my hip for a month. I went to the grocery store, yoga, church, to the bank. Yes, you can carry a concealed weapon in a bank. I was surprised as well. But my idea was I wanted to understand what is going on with these people who are showing up to my events. What is it that they're experiencing? Because I was putting them in this category of they're the opposite of me. I don't like them. But what I wanted to do is I wanted to understand them. I wanted to go into their shoes so that I could not be so scared of them. And for me, that's been a big key, is to go towards the thing that scares me, to understand it, break it down a little bit, and then I can have empathy or at least some understanding of the people I'm opposing and I'm arguing with. And that certainly gave me an insight to having a gun, what it does to you mentally, and the sort of thoughts that go through your head, and the being worried constantly about who's going to come into the space I'm in and shoot, and what am I going to do? So it definitely helped me have an understanding for that.
Well, that's incredible because I've often thought, to have a gun on me makes me more hyper vigilant. I mean, it
Yeah,
makes
a
it makes
hundred
me like,
percent. Yeah.
yeah, and so, was there any moment that you felt safer having this gun on you?
Honestly, I really didn't. I'm not a particularly paranoid person, but I'm in the grocery store and I'm looking at people's waists and wondering who else has a gun in here. Right? I'm ruminating at night. If okay, so if someone comes into the house, I got to get the gun out of the safe, and then what am I going to do? Okay, if they come up the stairs, then I'll shoot them. But then, oh my gosh, my son's going to hear the sound, and then he's going to come out and he's going to see some dead person on our house, and then we're going to have to move because he'll have those. I mean, I was I was thinking about these things instead of, oh, I forgot to pay the electricity bill, and oh, my son's got a science project due in 2 days. I better get him on it. Right? Like it was such unproductive thinking. And that's what was frustrating about it. I was so glad, Cynthia, when I got rid of that gun and had it melted down 30 days later. And I could go back to my regular thinking about grocery shopping and lists that and where I wanted to put plants in the backyard or whatever it was.
Well, I'm so glad you shared this, because I know some of us have thought about that kind of thing, but have never acted on it. And so I think it's important to know that whatever you're engaged in has impact on your thinking. So the question becomes, what kind of thinking do you want to have? I want to know how people find you.
So the best way to find me is I have a website, HeidiYewman.com, and it's HeidiYewman.com. And so that's where you can find out more information about my book, Beyond the Bullet. That's where you can find out about my film, which is available on Amazon Prime. And it's also where you can find information about my upcoming memoir, Dumb Girl, which it gets released August 19th.
So proud of you.
Oh, thanks, Cynthia.
Listen, writing a book is not for the faint of heart. I mean,
That is
it's a
true.
journey. It's a journey. So I ask the same last question of everyone on my show. This show is called Women Awakening. What do you think is the most important thing about women awakening on the planet in this moment?
I think what's most important is that women need to be in situations where they can find their voice, right? They can shed the shame. We all have shame from whatever it is, whether it's past abuse from childhood or bad relationships. And so I think it's working towards that and empowering ourselves so we can be our true selves and not be stuck in that space. And so it's whether you find a therapist to help you, whether you have a partner who you can talk things through with and who can help you become your best you, or you find a group of girlfriends that value you and getting away from toxic relationships and being really clear about what do I want to be? How do I want to live? And I'm really proud of myself for becoming the person I am. I certainly had a bad upbringing of childhood physical and sexual abuse. And like I said at the beginning of this conversation, I certainly didn't think I'd be in the position I'm in right now. And I'm so grateful for the support that I've had with my current family and children and husband. And I just hope that people work towards that and women work towards becoming their best them and going towards the resources that can help them do that.
It's beautiful. Thank you so much. Well, I'm very grateful you've been on the show, Heidi, and I can feel your passion and your brilliance, actually.
Oh, thank you, Cynthia.
Okay, ladies, I'm going to close the show the same way I do every time with different words. You know, Heidi is a representation of a moment in time that says, who do I want to be? How do I want to show up? How do I want to make a difference on this planet, whether it's large or small? And so that's what I want to say to you. You are the perfect person to do what you came here to do. And whatever it is that ignites you or you creates passion points within you, whatever it is, say yes. Because the universe will then support you. It will align with you to show you the path. You don't have to know how to get there. You just have to say yes. because what I want you to know is that you are a yes in the mind of the universe. I love you, and I'll see you next time.